Have you ever had questions for missionaries but never had a missionary to ask? Have you ever wondered what's it like to be a missionary and what are the things missionaries deal with when serving the Lord in a foreign context? Well, today we're continuing the series on questions and answers related to missions, evangelism, and church planting in Italy. And this is a ministry that we have put into practice now for a number of years. We first learned it way back at the Bible Institute, and we used to have what's called a missionary panel, and the missionaries would line up on one side of the room, the students studying at the Institute would line up on the other side of the room, and they would get to ask all the questions they could think of to learn more about what it means to be a missionary. I remember being on both sides of that panel and had benefited from it in both scenarios. So at Practical Missions Cohort, on the podcast called Missions Incorporated, the podcast of PMC, we're continuing this tradition and letting people ask questions while we give answers to help them have a better understanding of what it means to be a missionary and what it looks like to serve the Lord Jesus Christ in a foreign land. Helpful for people just wanting to know more, but also for those being called by the Lord to become a missionary to get a better understanding of what to expect and how the Lord may be making them able to do something similar, that is to serve the Lord in a foreign context. So today we have episode number 265 of Missions Incorporated, Ask a Missionary. And on this episode, I'm going to be sharing with you the question and answer session from the live webinar called VIA that we did just a few weeks ago. So we'll go ahead and roll that clip. There's 4, I think, questions there and the answers that we had for those questions and a variety of different topics, but all good questions. At the same time, I just want to encourage you to take a moment, if you have a question of your own and you'd like to ask a question, you could either send us an email at info@practicalmissions.org, or you could go to our SpeakPipe page, which I'll have the link to that in the show notes, speakpipe.com/practical missions cohorts. But there you could leave us also an audio message with any question or comment that you have related to missions and evangelism and church planting in Italy, or just in missions in general or missionary life in general. You can leave your question, the audio question, and we can implement that into a podcast at another time, a podcast episode. So something to think about, and if you have a question of your own, don't hesitate to do that and reach out, and that could be an encouraging time for everybody who gets to tune in. If this is your first time joining us on the podcast, Missions Incorporated, my name is Jesse Schreck. I'm the founder and director of Practical Missions Cohort, serving together with my family, laying the foundations for the ministry here in the country of Italy, doing evangelism, discipleship, and church planting to see more biblical Italian churches planted here in this area. So thank you for tuning in, and enjoy this episode with the question and answers. And until the next time, God bless you. Ciao, ciao. Final moment for today is our question and answer to Ask a Missionary. And I have a couple questions already here, and I'll go ahead and we'll get started with that. And we're going to wrap up then in just 10 minutes with our webinar today to respect the time that we set aside for this. So some of you might be watching in the replay then, and that's great. You can still write questions, and we'll maybe be able to feature them on a podcast episode in the future. And Lord willing, we'll do something similar to this again in a few months. We can't be there in the States. Things are a bit complicated, but Lord willing, we'll be able to do something similar. The first question that we have already scheduled here to go up, here's a question. It says, how is travel to and from Italy right now? How could this impact mission trips in 2022? It is a good question. Travel to and from Italy right now. I was told just a few days ago they started doing flights out of Italy back to America. I thought they were going on all this time, but apparently they haven't been. And so flights are now going back and forth, but Biden just made a new law that you do need to be vaccinated if you're not a U.S. citizen going to the States. So it's complicated for non-U.S. citizens to go there. And you need a negative test, and you need a vaccine to travel to the States. Now, as far as for Americans to come to Italy, I don't actually have a good answer for you, and it changes all the time. But the second part of the question, how could this impact mission trips in 2022? This could definitely impact mission trips in 2022. So normally, as Brother Caleb mentioned in his exhortation for us today, you have to plan a little bit in advance for a mission trip, a short-term trip even. And part of that is also booking tickets and these kinds of things. And part of the complication for this kind of work is the international travel is not stable as it normally would be. So we don't have a good answer on this. This is something that we're checking into on a weekly basis now. If there is a group that's interested in coming in 2022, we can get on a regular communication, or perhaps if you join the PMC Slack channel, which was highlighted in during the songs there, we would encourage you to join that. It's a great way to keep in touch with us, a more personal way. You get all the latest media and updates from PMC before anybody else. It's free. It's like a glorified chatting application for your phone. So you can follow different subjects of conversation within the app for us, and you can see stuff sooner. You can ask questions, get the latest updates also with travel. But yeah, there's definitely some things up in the air related to travel for 2022. We'll keep you guys posted. And the next question is, how bad are the pandemic regulations in Italy right now? How bad are the pandemic regulations in Italy right now? I would say, as I see it, it's pretty bad. I don't know if it can get much worse, but I guess anything could get worse, honestly. But they've been more strict here in Italy these last several months. Since August, it's been mandatory. If you want to do certain things, you need to be vaccinated or to have what's called a green pass. So you have to either get a test done a few days a week if you want to go to work. All workers have to get this, have this green pass. You can get vaccinated with the new vaccines, and that'll get you a green pass. If you don't have that, you have to do testing or show that you had the virus in the last 6 months, and they'll give you a green pass for that. So it doesn't quite make sense, because a vaccinated person can still get the virus and can still spread the virus. That's all happening. And many of the people struggling right now are the nurses, for example. There's 1,000 almost nurses in our region here that have forcefully lost their job because they don't want to get the vaccine. It's outrageous, because they were the ones risking their lives caring for all the people at the beginning of the pandemic. All of them pretty much have had the virus because they were exposed to it early on. They have natural antibodies. They're well protected. If things made sense, we would say, okay, well, you're well protected. We don't need to worry about you. You're not going to spread the virus any more than a vaccinated person would. Everybody can still get it and spread it. You're fine. Keep working. Instead, they're firing these people and they're losing their jobs, and everything is chaotic right now. The one couple that reached out to us recently, their situation is they don't want to get vaccinated. They're trying to force vaccinations now on the kids before the end of the year, 5 years old. So that's a real issue. And a reason for prayer for us as well. We're now pursuing intensely to get homeschool set up, because we do not want our son, we don't believe it's necessary for him to get vaccinated, and it's not worth the risk. So they don't want to do that to their children. They're considering fleeing the country, maybe going to another country, and they want to meet and talk about all the different options. Now we're telling them about how homeschool is a possibility that could buy them some more time. So things are very crazy in Italy right now. To answer this question, how bad are the pandemic regulations? You can't do anything. And let me show this. This I just saw today before I came onto this live feed. This post came up on the Facebook, and it says that the COVID continues to grow or to run wild here in our region, and it says we need to have a lockdown for the non-vaccinated. Austria is talking about this, lockdowns, special lockdowns for the people that are unvaccinated, which, as I just mentioned, that actually doesn't make any sense, actually. Italy is considering it. I don't think they will, from what I understand, but they're considering it. The fact that they're considering it is just crazy. So there's a lot of restrictions, and we can fly under the radar because as missionaries, I'm not working for an Italian company. I don't need to be vaccinated to do what we do. And my wife works in the home primarily, so we're okay. Thankfully, hopefully it'll remain like that. But we would invite you to pray about the situations here in Italy. From what I understand, the only thing like it in the States is maybe New York and California, where extremely democratic states where they're really enforcing things. But the other crazy thing about this is the most vaccinated states and countries are the ones now having the most cases. So there's a whole lot of stuff here that we just don't know, and people need to learn about before they should be forcing these kinds of experiments on people. But that's the situation we're in now. Another question or two, and then we'll wrap it up here as we close today. This one says, how do you get around in Italy? Do you have a car? How do you get around? Good question, I guess. At first I heard this and it seems kind of a little bit funny because we get around like anybody else in Italy. Similar, just like in the States, we have cars here and so on. Missionaries, you need a car as well to get around most of the time. So, but yeah, it's a good question. I can understand. And I remember when I was not a missionary, I had no idea how missionaries lived and what they did and so on. But the truth is, to do a lot of what we do, we need a vehicle, just like anybody else. So we do have a car. We have a little French car. And for now, it holds us. We hope in the future to get a van, something that we can have guests with us as well, or family members and folks who visit us and so on. We can take them around too. But we have a little car. We get around in that. And we also get around a lot on bike here in Italy. In this part of Italy, a lot of people use the bicycle to go pick up bread, cheese, whatever you need, groceries, different things. When I go downtown to evangelize, I can drive there in 5 minutes, but then I spend 15 or 20 trying to find a parking spot. Or I get on the bike and I pedal right in 18 minutes, park the bike wherever I want, and just go and do what I need to. And I get myself a little bit of exercise as I do it. So car and bike is the main ways we get around. And also in Italy, you get around quite a bit on foot, much more than I think in America. Good question, though. Let me see. Last one I guess we'll do is this one here. Do your kids go to Italian school? Yes, our kids go to Italian school so far till now. And I think most missionaries, their kids in Italy go to the public school. Unfortunately, there are no Christian schools. That's not really an option here in Italy for the evangelicals because the churches are so small. They're 10, 20, 30 people on average. So there aren't many any that I know of Christian education options. You go to the school, but the reality is Italian schools, from what I understand, are following in the pattern of the American public school system, where they want to teach you that little kids can become something else. They can have a gender transformation, or they can identify whatever they want. That kind of mentality is now coming to Italy, and it's already here, and it's not good. So we already have been thinking about pursuing the homeschooling. One thing I'm thankful about with the pandemic is it did open our eyes a little more to see the importance of educating our own children, doing homeschool and these kinds of things, giving them a Christian worldview and not entrusting them to the state to raise them. Very, very dangerous thing, especially in our day. So we're more mindful of that. And now that they're trying to force vaccinations on our children that we don't think they should have, we are definitely taking actionable steps. I have a list of things I need to do next week. We're going to sign up, become part of there's a nice Italian-American lady who really kicked things off here in Italy a few years back, maybe 10 years ago. And a great platform available and steps that we can follow to do the same thing. And Lord willing, we want to be able to lead other families in that process as well. So typically I would say, yes, our kids go to Italian school. Right now our son goes to the Italian nursery school, for example. And it's been good because he's been learning the language there. We've been getting to know other families and being involved in their lives, and all that's good. But I think we'll still be meeting other families and getting involved in their lives through even homeschooling and helping others to do that. So pray for us for that. But yeah, typically they would go to Italian school, but now things have changed a lot. And I think other missionaries as well are going to be reconsidering how they do schooling as missionaries in Italy. There's a couple other questions, but we are out of time, so we'll save those for another occasion.